We got Jean Ginzburg, who's going to come on in about 2 minutes or so and just rock your world in terms of building your business, starting an online business, marketing. She is just a powerhouse delivering massive value. So stick around. Before that, I just want to say again, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for being here, for choosing to show up and invest in yourself, time, energy, even money to become your best self during these challenging times. Like, I really acknowledge you for doing the work and feeding your mind with sources of inspiration and encouragement. Keep up the great work. One step at a time. That's how you can achieve anything you set your heart, your mind, and your soul to. Next up is our iTunes review of the week. This week it's Swartz B22, who says, "Win. Chris inspires by encouraging everyone to become the greatest possible self so you can become all that you were created to be." Swartz B22, thank you so much for that review. If you want a chance to get shouted out on a future 12-hour live stream, go to beergps.com/iTunes or search Greatest Possible Self on the Apple Podcast Store. Leave us a review, hit that subscribe, and let us know what you love about the show, what you want to see more of, how we can improve it for you. We'd love that feedback, and thank you in advance for doing that. I'm going to bring on Jean in just a second. Before that, grab a piece of paper, grab a pen, be ready to take notes. Jean's been on the show before, just a powerhouse, deliver massive value, so you definitely want to stick around all the way through till the end, because one idea has the power to change everything for you, for your life, and for your business. So let's introduce Jean, and then we'll bring her on. Because Jean Ginzburg is a #1 best-selling author, award-winning entrepreneur, and digital marketing expert with more than 12 years of industry expertise, helping companies scale revenue, optimize sales and marketing processes, and improve productivity. Jean is the CEO and the founder of GenGinzburg.com, a digital marketing education company, and Ginball Digital Marketing, a digital marketing agency. Jean's clients range from brand name Fortune 500 companies to innovative startups. And additionally, Jean has been featured in Inc.com, Forbes.com, Entrepreneur, and the Huffington Post. Jean, are you ready to rock the house, Superwoman?
I am super excited. Yes. I'm very excited to be here right now.
I love it. I love it. We are bringing the heat, and I know you're not interviewing Gary Vee or anything like that, but on this interview, but I appreciate you being excited, Jean. Thank you so much.
I'm very, very honored to be here, and interviewing Gary Vee was very fun and awesome, and that was a great experience.
Yes. I
yes,
love that.
I have to say I was very honored to do that as well.
Yes. Oh, we're going to dive into that. I just wanted to really highlight that. Like, you're doing some amazing things in the world of marketing, really getting seen by the right people, and just creating an impact. I love it. So we're going to dive right into the theme of today, Jean, which is using crises to fuel creation. What does that mean for you?
It's been an interesting few weeks, I have to say. So in terms of being creative and using the crisis, one of the things that I'm seeing, or potentially I think could be a great business opportunity, is, instead of thinking about it as just like a negative crisis, thinking about what are the opportunities, right? What are the opportunities that are showing up in this day and age, in this particular situation? So I would say thinking about that and stepping up to, if you're if you're an expert in a specific area when it comes to any place where you can help, then providing that service, I think, is the great way to move forward, instead of just sitting at home and being like, oh, woe's me, this is terrible, and things are going down the drain.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I've seen people who are like shaming people for like selling their products and services when there's, oh, it's not a necessity. Like, how dare you for selling your products and services when like there's all this chaos and, crises going on. It's like, come on, we have businesses, like we have mouths to feed, we have families to take care of, and our products and services, because we sell them with integrity, we sell them ethically, we sell them because we know it adds value and changes people's lives, like it makes a difference and it moves us forward instead of stagnating and saying, well, I'm just going to be a victim and wait for everything to pass, put my head in the sand. No, like take action and let's move forward.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. I haven't really seen that much shaming, but I mean, if you think about it, it's the products and services are, they're also there to, feed our families and feed ourselves and to keep our businesses going. So there's nothing wrong with that, but also helping the community in exchange for the knowledge that you have.
Yeah, it's so interesting. So let's talk about the work that you're doing today. You're empowering people to start their online businesses. Like, what are some core things that you really stand for when you're serving your clients, Jean?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you mentioned when we spoke earlier, is we help entrepreneurs and I'd say small to medium-sized companies, mostly entrepreneurs and small companies, productize our knowledge. And start online businesses. A lot of times we find we work with entrepreneurs who are typically an expert in something that they do, whether they are, a piano expert and they are, playing the piano, or they're an attorney who wants to teach other attorneys how to run their law firm, or they're a digital marketing expert. I mean, there's many different expertises out there, right? And so what we try to do with our clients is help them bring that out there into the world. So sometimes we work with also coaches and consultants, and a lot of times we see that they're just trading time for dollars. And so we're also helping them productize their knowledge, so where they can not just trade time for dollars and spend an hour with a client, but actually take that knowledge that they have, productize it, and that could be many different formats, which we can talk about later, and then push that out to many people, so it's one to many kind of format. So that's really what we're trying to help people do, is just get their knowledge out there.
I love it. And as you're saying that, I thought about my girlfriend Petya, because she has a women's empowerment coaching business. And like, we're always talking about how like you share so much gold in these client sessions when you're doing like one-on-one custom sessions, when it's like, you're being there and whatever comes up. It's like, oh my gosh, you could totally use that and package it up into courses, repurpose content from it, things like that. There's so much value there. And I think a lot of people are sleeping on those opportunities to really like maximize that and make life easier, give themselves more freedom, bring in more revenue, all that great stuff.
Yeah, and the other thing that I do find a lot, and I actually did that myself when I first started in this space, is that I was repeating myself so many times because I was saying the exact same thing to clients, right? And so I realized, well, why am I just repeating myself? Like, it's literally the same exact thing. So instead of me just talking to you right now, and then to my next client, in an hour, then the next client in the next hour, it's much easier for me to just say that to many people all at once, and then that it provides a lot more value than me just repeating myself every hour to a different, client.
Yeah, 100%. So it's been a while since you've been on the show, Gene. I want to teach our audience and remind our audience about your journey getting into digital marketing. You've been doing this for over a decade. Tell us more about what got you into marketing and helping people build their businesses in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's been just over 2 years, I think, since the first time we did this.
Yep.
So seems like things have a lot of change on your end too, and just you've grown, and your brand, and you've gotten so many people on your show, and it's been you do this every week, so it's crazy. I don't even know how many people you've had on this show over the last couple of years since I've been there. So it's pretty crazy. But in terms of my journey, so like I said, I've been doing this actually for 13 years now. I think I need to update my bio. And then 7 years ago, I started my digital marketing agency, which was the first business that I started. And it's been great. I've loved working with clients. And then I've also expanded my business to include consulting and then the education part of the company. So that's taking the knowledge that I've gained having an agency and working with clients, and then putting that into products and courses and trainings and things like that. So also I wrote a book a couple of years ago. I think this was right before we met, and that was an Amazon bestseller. So that was pretty exciting for me. And then since then, I've just been growing my business, interviewing Gary Vee, and just having an awesome time helping entrepreneurs.
That's awesome. I'm curious, what do you feel has been your advantage to help you grow and get in front of awesome people, authorities like Gary Vee?
I would say just growing my brand and helping entrepreneurs. I mean, that's really, I think that's what has been helping me with my growth. I think it's just going out there, being present, answering questions, helping in any way that I can, servicing my clients, servicing the community. I would say that's really, I think, what I can attribute to the growth that I've experienced over the last several years.
That's awesome. When it comes to building that foundation for a business, what do you feel is really key, especially online businesses? What do you feel is super important that entrepreneurs get right? Coaches, authors, speakers, people building an online business, wanting to productize. What foundation needs to be there, Gene?
Drive, I would say. That's
Mm-hmm.
taking action. A lot of times we think it's all about the fancy gadgets or the fancy, Facebook ads or something like that. It's really about just taking the next step. It's not really as much about the, just the strategies you should have a strategy, of course, but it's really testing things out, taking the next step, not getting discouraged, moving forward, and not letting people discourage you or be negative towards you. I think that's really the main thing is where I see like the clients that I've had or the customers I've had that have been the most successful. That's where I've seen that's the types of characteristics that they have in order to have a successful business.
Yeah, I feel like that's so key. I think for a lot of people, we want to work with driven, smart people, but they're in their own way, and they're in their own way. They have blind spots. They don't see what they are missing, and then we come in with that expert knowledge, whether it's through a course or consulting, coaching, whatever our service delivers, and we help alleviate that whatever burden or whatever block that they're currently experiencing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So good. So, I mean, marketing, it seems like in marketing, there's always something new. Things are always evolving, right? Because it's like technology, the times, things like that. What may have worked 20 years ago may not necessarily work as effectively as today. What do you see as important in marketing effectiveness today in these times?
Well, first of all, I would say when it comes to one of the things that I feel like is the most effective is really your messaging. And I feel that a lot of entrepreneurs get that wrong. And that is something that's been around for 20 years and 50 years and probably 100 years at this point. And a lot of times entrepreneurs kind of gloss over that. And and I see that and I'm like, no, the way I envision or the way I work with clients or customers is like, you have your ideal target market, you have your messaging, and then everything else is a channel, right? Social media is a channel, email is a channel, Facebook ads is a channel, your website is a channel. Like all of that, if you have your messaging down and you know who you're marketing towards, all of those pieces are just like marketing materials. Sometimes they're online, sometimes they're offline, right? So if you can get your marketing message down, then that's really the most critical piece. Yes, there are a few things that you probably should play around when it comes to, let's say running Facebook ads or creating a sales funnel and testing those things out. But if you have that down, you have the messaging, you have the ideal target market down, then the marketing itself will be so much more easier for you because you're capturing the audience, you're capturing their attention, you are giving them what they want, and it's much more of an easier process. So don't gloss over the marketing message. Don't gloss over the ideal target market. Make sure that you actually get those down, honed in, and like tight before you can start really going into the digital marketing itself or any marketing in general.
Yeah. This is super key. I love how you said, it's been important for like 100+ years, right? Like it's been around, and it's still a big weakness as a foundation for how people are not getting that direction and like alignment up front. So it's like whatever efforts someone takes, it's like, do you want to be trying to roll on a square wheel, or do you want to be trying to roll on a circular wheel, right? And if you don't have that message right, you're gonna be trying to roll on a square wheel. So I want to talk about the questions that someone should be asking themselves to get that messaging right and that ideal client right before they go and take all this action and build products and create content. Like, what questions should they be asking themselves, Gene, to get clear on those two things?
Yes, actually, when I engage with a new client or customer, we actually do three things. One of them is the strategic planning worksheet. That's more of like, what do you see your company, your brand in the next, year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, like really kind of big picture. But then also as part of it, we always do a ideal target market worksheet and a branding and messaging worksheet, which is the things I just mentioned in our previous point. So with the ideal target market, the things you should be asking when you're creating that, and that's something that I can definitely share also across if anybody has any questions or wants that, you can get in touch with me, and I'm sure we'll talk about that at the end of the show. Is that we asked questions like just generic questions like demographic, like age, gender, geolocation, things like that, right? But then we really get into the deeper points, the psychographics. What are their challenges? What are their pain points? What's keeping them up at night? These are the main things that we want to consider, because from that is also going to come your marketing messaging, right? Because you're going to take that and you're going to be like, okay, this is what I'm trying to address. These are the people I'm going after. This is the audience. This is what's keeping them up at night. And then this is how my product or service can alleviate that, solve that problem, right? So that is the ideal target market. And then for the branding and messaging, the questions we ask in that messaging worksheet is, so what are your core values as a company? What is your value proposition? Who are your competitors? What differentiates you in the marketplace? So all of these are so critical, because again, a lot of times entrepreneurs gloss over that. They want to run straight to doing Facebook ads. And I'm like, great, you can't really do Facebook ads without having the foundation, right? So you need to say, okay, well, how are you different from your competitors? What makes you unique? What makes you why should your audiences go with your product or service versus the 10,000 other people who are doing the exact same thing as you, right? So really digging deep on what differentiates you, what's your value, what's your core values, what's your value proposition, and putting that all in a worksheet and then incorporating that in your messaging.
Yeah. Oof. Gold. I love it. And again, I just really want to reiterate for everyone who is contemplating, I should be more clear on my messaging. I should be more clear on my ideal client. Definitely schedule something with Jean after this interview. Connect with her. Just make it happen. Find that person who you resonate with, who has the processes and the solutions that you can implement to be able to create better results. Because I love what you said about people just go to the shiny object or the channel of Facebook ads, and it's oh, let's just go spray and pray, create all this content, or throw money at it and see what works. But it's no.
And then they wonder why their ads don't work, and then they come back to me and they're like, why didn't this work? And I'm like, well, that's because you didn't actually do the foundational pieces in order to make this work.
Man, it's so fascinating because it's basic, it's simple, but so many people are not doing that foundational work.
Yep, absolutely. See that all the time. I mean, I have to say there's only one client I've ever had in the probably hundreds of clients and the thousands of entrepreneurs I've spoken with who actually had that whole thing down before I started an engagement. I swear to God, this is not even a joke. One client that I know who actually got that down right.
Wow.
And that's out of literally at this point in the 7 years I've had my business, I probably have spoken to over 1,000 entrepreneurs, whether they were clients or they were just people I've spoken to or had meetings or calls with, over 1,000.
Jeez. Oh my gosh. So when it comes to working with your clients, what's important for you as far as the values that you bring and how you love to serve them, and what makes you stand out? Because there's a lot of marketers out there. What do you feel are your values and how you do it that differentiates you, Jean?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, because there are a lot of entrepreneurs out there who are doing digital marketing. There are a lot of companies that are doing digital marketing. So absolutely. I would say the one thing that differentiates us is a couple. Well, first is what I mentioned earlier, is that we really dig into that ideal target market and the messaging, because we also feel like that's not, if we don't do that, then the whole thing is not set up for success. So I'd say that definitely differentiates us. And we, having spoken to, like I said, a lot of entrepreneurs, and they've worked with previous agencies or digital marketing experts, they're we haven't really done anything like that. So that's definitely one piece I feel that differentiates us. The other thing is that we do try to stay as much as we can on the cutting edge of technology, because since it's a digital marketing agency, we always stay on top of the tech trends and all of social media platforms that are going on. Yep. So we really try to use the latest technology that's applicable to the client. And we, a lot of times, companies or brands or entrepreneurs just kind of, they're like, oh, I'll stick with Google Ads because that's been working for me for a long time. And they don't always look into what else is out there, what else is working, what else can we try. So I'm all about trying new software, new platforms, new social media outlets in order to find your audiences. So I think that's another thing that really differentiates us, is that we're always trying to stay on top of tech trends and use the latest technologies that are applicable.
Didn't you talk about, I may be wrong, but didn't you talk about TikTok with Gary Vee?
I certainly did, yeah. So that's another one. And I mean, he's very much into TikTok and has been promoting that insanely on his content. And so we did talk about that during the interview. He did mention that TikTok is going to be, I mean, it already is, I would say, almost like the next social media platform. So if you're not on TikTok, all of you who are listening, definitely get on that. It's not just from me, it's from Gary Vee's lips as well. And he knows his stuff because he's been doing this for a long time and he never seems to be wrong. It's like the guy's never wrong. Okay. Or very, very few times he's ever wrong. So so if that's not a platform that you're using, definitely look into that. So it's kind of in the sense that it's similar to like an Instagram, but it's only video. So you would post, I think, up to 60-second videos on TikTok. So you can take that, repurpose that content. If you're already posting, let's say, on an Instagram, you can definitely post it on TikTok. But a lot of times, Gary Vee always says use the native platform. So use create content specifically for that platform. So also that's another piece to consider, not just repurposing content, but also creating it specifically for TikTok.
Yeah, because like the language of the platform for every platform is different, right? Like posting something on Facebook and trying to post that same thing on Instagram or vice versa, it's like not going to work. YouTube to Facebook, YouTube to Instagram, it's not going to work. So understanding that, and I also think what you said earlier about knowing who that ideal customer, that ideal client is, that will really help the content succeed and make the impact that we want it to drive the conversation, to drive people to take new actions that they wouldn't have taken otherwise, to check out our stuff and move themselves along the buying journey.
Right. And also it's something to keep in mind is that thinking about where your audiences are hanging out. So which social media platform are they on? And I know that a lot of times I do get pushback where it's like, well, my audiences are not on TikTok. And that might be the case right now, but in order to be successful on TikTok, you have to start now so that when your audiences do age up, and they will eventually age up, we all get older, they will be on TikTok, and then you already have had, years of experience being on that, and then you can find your audiences or engage with your audiences now who eventually are going to age up. So thinking about that in that sense, not just like the immediate, like, okay, my audience are on Facebook now, so that's all I'm going to do. But Facebook is going to eventually evolve, like all the other platforms always evolve. So thinking about in the future, what's going to happen in the next year or 5 years. So a lot of times, again, entrepreneurs don't always think about what's coming up in the next 5 years. So keeping that in mind.
Yeah. So it sounds like to be open and explore different marketing channels and avenues and like strategies to be like prepared for whatever the future is going to bring. Is there anything else you'd recommend about like being current and modern and being flexible, adaptable when things are changing, platforms are changing, new platforms are coming around? Anything else you'd recommend?
I mean, I would just say being flexible. So not just being stuck in whatever you've been doing, because businesses fail because they've been doing the exact same thing for years and decades. That's typically how businesses fail, right? Like that's why, Borders is no longer in business, and that's why Woolworth is no longer in business, because they did the exact same thing for decades, and then like 2020 came by and they're like, oh, well, we're kind of behind the 8 ball, Toys R Us, So being flexible and also just realizing that like things change very quickly now. Maybe 10 years ago or 15 years ago, we didn't have that kind of like constant change. But now with the technology that we have, with the way things are, it's just things change much more rapidly. So being open to change is so critical, because that's how you're going to be able to grow the business, or your business, any business, and allow for that to kind of penetrate into your business. But if you're going to continue on doing the exact same thing, it's going to be harder for you then to get ahead of the curve. Yeah.
If an entrepreneur is wanting to get into like productizing their knowledge and what they got going on, like where do they have, after they have the ideal client and the messaging, where do they go from that step?
Right. That's a very good point. So then I would say the next thing would be also creating the product. And so what does that look like for them? The easiest things to create, or the most, I would say the easiest thing to get started with when you're just getting started with this, would be creating something like a group coaching program. So you might already be a coach or a consultant, and you might already have one-on-one relationships with your clients. But in order to scale and not just be trading time for dollars, creating, let's say, a group coaching program might be something similar. You might charge obviously less per person because it's, there's more people in it at one time. But that's also a very easy way to transition, right? So you're talking to one person, you're giving them advice, in that specific, space. Let's say it's like relationship, something like that. Sure. So then you have a group coaching program, and you have multiple people. You're giving them this, similar advice, and then if they want to interact with you, further, you can provide, additional products or services. So that could be, let's say, courses or training. So it could be, let's say, paid webinars or free webinars, or it could be courses that, let's say, you have combined a lot of information into one specific topic, and then you can create videos and worksheets and cheat sheets and PDFs and whatnot to put into more of a comprehensive, bigger picture course or training. So this would be the easiest way, I would say, to get started, is maybe just group coaching, and then moving up to maybe, let's say, more expensive products that are, let's say, trainings or courses.
That's good. So the group coaching, that's just like, hey, we're already delivering these services one-on-one at more of a high ticket level, but not everyone can afford that level of, intimacy, feeling and experiencing like a VIP of your highest level of service. And so it's like to make it more available to people and be able to scale, which I mentioned in your intro is like something that you're really focusing on, helping companies and entrepreneurs scale their revenues. Then that's like, we get to build the systems and the processes to be able to do that. And it sounds like the group coaching is a really logical next step for a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think that's really where a lot of coaches, I would say authors, consultants find the most success, because it's very easy to implement. You're already kind of doing something similar. It just requires some additional tools, and it's easy to scale because you can invite, 10 people, 20 people, 100 people, and again, it allows you to create more revenue in your business, and it's something that, like you're already doing for the most part, just one-on-one.
Yeah. You mentioned tools there being an important part of the success of these initiatives. Tell us more about like how to choose the right tools, what we should know about choosing tools to help us get that result.
Absolutely. So we also, as I think that differentiates us, as we talked about earlier, is that we do use tech platforms and tools to really support our business and our clients' businesses. So, for example, if you're looking to just take the next step in productizing your knowledge, create, let's say, a group coaching program, you might probably use a platform like this. So right now we're on a Zoom, so you probably would want to use a platform like Zoom to invite people into your meeting, and then have these group coaching calls with 10, 20, 100 people all at the same time. So that's one platform or one tool you would be using. The other things would be things like content management systems, right? So you have these calls, let's say it's every week that you have a group coaching call. Well, so people are paying you for it, right? And so you would then want to record that call and then put it into some sort of content management system, where then if somebody missed the call, they can go back, they can watch it, and then you get the content without necessarily being live. And so there's content management systems like Teachable or Thinkific or Kajabi, where you create the course, or create the group coaching program. All the payment is done there. You have your landing pages there. You have your graphics there. You drive people to the landing page, they sign up, and then they have access to it. They have a login, and then they can view all of the content there, all in one place on their mobile device, on their computer, whatever it might be. So that's another tool that we definitely use, and I always have my clients use as the content learning management system. And then there's a lot of other tools out there that, everything from project management tools to standard operating procedure tools, which I think are very critical, especially if you're looking to scale your business. Let's say bring people on board. Those standard operating procedure is, again, something that I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs not implement, but I think is so critical in creating a business and scaling a business. Things like landing page creation tools like ClickFunnels or something like that. And then, of course, things like ads, so like Facebook ads, Instagram ads. I mean, there's so many tools out there that and we can go a little bit more into detail, depending on where you are in your business and what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I was gonna ask because there's so many tools out there. How does someone know? How does someone not get caught up in shiny object syndrome and just getting distracted by all these different tools, all these different platforms and ways to potentially market to their audience?
Right. I'd say there's a few things you can do. I mean, we're just going online and doing some research and finding the tools that are in that specific space. So, I mean, for example, for landing page creation, there's several tools like ClickFunnels or Unbounce or Optimize Press that are all pretty much kind of similar. They do the same thing. They create landing pages for you. So doing a little bit of research. I mean, going on Facebook groups and just asking people who've already have experience with it, seeing kind of a consensus on who's using what and why they like a particular tool. So I would just say maybe doing those couple of things at first, and then just testing it out yourself, right? Depending on what you need in your business and what you want to accomplish, or maybe how you like the interaction or the user experience of that particular tool. You might use one versus another, and that might just be a personal preference that you have. I might like ClickFunnels, but you might like Unbounce better, right? Yeah. Just for personal reasons or just usability reasons. So yes, I would say those would be the things that I would do, and that's how I started when I first started, adding tools to my business. Is just like doing some research, figuring out what other people are doing in the community, and then seeing how they work for me. And I've had changes, and I've actually changed tools. For example, at one point I used to use Optimize Press, but now I switched ClickFunnels for funnel creation and landing page creation, and I like that tool now better.
Yeah, and plus it's like, I think for me, I would go with what is the tool that I can easily share with people, has the most training, has the most support, and it's easy to get started with, especially if you're going to be using it to grow your own business, and you're going to be sharing that with your clients. It's super important that everyone has ease of accessibility and ramping up speed,
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, this is great, Gene. I love it. So is there anyone who wouldn't be a good fit to productize their knowledge? I'm curious, is there any industries or types of professions?
I would say, I mean, if you're an expert in a specific field, then you're a good candidate for productizing your knowledge. So that could be, again, a coach, author, consultant, just, any expert. I don't know if there's really any. I mean, I guess if you don't have expertise, that might somewhat disqualify you from then productizing your knowledge, because typically it starts off with, you want to productize your knowledge based on the expertise that you have. But I feel like at the same time, we all have expertise in one thing or another, and I think one of the things that I see a lot is that we take that for granted, and it's like, well, why would somebody want to learn how to garden or something? Let's say I'm a expert gardener, and I've been gardening for 20 years and I know everything about gardening. It's so we take that because we know that knowledge so well. We're like, well, why would anybody want to know how to garden? But that's actually not the case. A lot of people would want to, let's say, learn about that very obscure, gardening technique or something like that. So a lot of times I think we think about it that way, but almost has to be like a mindset shift or a paradigm shift where we're like, yeah, somebody out there, maybe there's only 100 people out there who might be very interested in the specific gardening technique, but that's 100 people that you can help and 100 people that you can teach. So I think most everybody has some sort of expertise in some type of area or another that could be potentially a product or a service.
Yeah. This is good. I had a question about staying connected, because I feel like in this online age, it's easy to feel a disconnection. And like, especially with all the things that are going on right now, I feel connection is needed more than ever. What do you think is important that we stay connected with our audience, with people we care about, and like keep that connection alive, Gene?
Well, yes, I think connection is very critical. I mean, it's engagement. I always talk a lot about engagement in my content, engaging with your audiences. So, and yes, it can be a little bit challenging, especially now when we're kind of going through this time where we can't really engage in person as much, but we can still engage online. And I think a lot of people are moving towards that. If they haven't already, and a lot of people already are online, obviously, and are engaging online, but I think even more so now because we can't really engage in person and have that kind of interaction. So, yes, the one thing that I also talk about a lot in my brand and my content is like finding those audiences, engaging with them, servicing them, helping them, and creating a community around that. So I think that's really key when it comes to any sort of productizing of any knowledge, whatever it might be, is creating that community so that you can service those individuals who are in your community, and teach them, whatever is the specific topic or expertise that you have.
Yeah. And in that community creation, is that something that you feel every entrepreneur, every business can do, is like start up their own Facebook group, or like is everyone meant to create that community, and like what are the different ways that they can do it? Because I know of Facebook groups, but is there other ways that people can continue to foster that community?
I think that, if you have a brand, creating a community, I think in having those kinds of people who are just really gung-ho about your brand is important. And I mean, we see that all the time, whether it's a small brand, whether it's a big brand, there's always going to be people who are like, yes, I love this particular brand. I love
Yep.
Nike and I always buy Nike. So you have those like really gung-ho ambassadors who are going after it. And, sometimes it just might be, it might be a smaller brand and maybe you only have, 10 or 20 of those kinds of people, but they're still very valuable because they're also ambassadors for your brand, and they're there to, bring in additional individuals who might also be in need of that particular service, or that particular expertise. In terms of the tools out there, so there's tools like Facebook groups. The other times I've seen Slack channels. So I've seen that quite a bit, actually, more so in the last couple of years, where, instead of using Facebook, where, maybe some people are not always on Facebook, creating a Slack channel for your community is another great way of just keeping together, but you really continue on engaging. I think that's really the key thing, is that you don't want to just create a group, and then forget about it, because it's kind of like a garden, right? If you don't continue on removing the weeds and just tending to your garden, then it's just gonna grow into insanity. But if you continuously working on the garden, same thing with any group and community, then you're engaging with your audiences and you're engaging with your community members.
Yeah. What you were saying there about, I call them raving fans. I think, those biggest advocates, things like that. Testimonials came up for me, and I want to hear, like, from your perspective, why are testimonials so important, and how do we best use them?
Right. So testimonials, I mean, I think are great for any brand, big or small, no matter what you're doing, whether you have a service or a product, always creating or getting testimonials. And those are used quite a bit in marketing materials. So I use them a lot for, let's say, my brand, my clients' brands, on landing pages, on websites, on even in emails, in order to showcase, how people have experienced the service or the product that they've experienced, and also just allowing other individuals to kind of view that and learn more about the brand. So I highly recommend creating testimonials. My recommendation would be to create video testimonials if you can. That those work really well. Nothing crazy, maybe just like a minute or two of somebody speaking about their experience, because those just are much more powerful, I think, than just having like a written testimonial. Those are good, but I think video is just so much better. And in general, video, I think, is much better in any, I guess, medium as compared to, let's say, the written word or audio or anything like that, just because it allows you to engage much better with the brand, and kind of see who that personal brand is behind, the camera.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so important. I love like the social proof aspect of
Right.
businesses, because I think so many people today, there's so many options. So it's like, how do we know what to choose, right? And you were talking earlier about like doing the research and going into communities, asking what tools to use. I think also looking at the testimonials and case studies and examples, and looking for someone who looks like me or looks like you, for you who's tuning in or listening right now, like someone who you resonate with. It's like, oh, that person had a similar situation to me and they got this result. Then I could probably do that. And maybe it's possible for me. And then it creates that possibility to move forward. It inspires someone to take action because they believe that they can do it.
Absolutely. It's all about taking action, like
Yeah.
we talked about earlier in the conversation.
Yep.
Yep.
And I think that's something interesting, because I think a lot of people want to build great businesses and serve a lot of people and make a lot of money, and that taking action component, like some people it's like built into, some people have developed it. Is there anything you would recommend around if someone wants to be more courageous, take more action, produce more results in their life? Like I said, not everyone is necessarily born with that, and some people have to really work to develop that fire and that consistency and that action taking ability. What have you seen to really step up and do that? How have people, someone who you've worked with or met over the years, gone from struggling and kind of being more in that victim mode and like waiting for life to happen to them, and then getting back into empowerment and taking action?
Right. I think there's a few things here, and I think one, a couple of them you kind of mentioned is one is just I think having a mindset shift where it's not just like, oh, things are happening to me, but it's actually the mindset of I am doing the thing. So I think that's the first thing, is just a mindset shift. A lot of times I see entrepreneurs, individuals, just people in general are like, oh, well, this is life and this is happening to me. That's not how we want to see things. We want to feel like we have control over life. So that's the first thing I would say. The second would be passion. The most successful people I've seen have been the ones that are passionate about what they do. Because if you are not passionate about what you do and you wake up in the morning and you're like, well, I'm not really passionate about, digital marketing today or really tomorrow or any other day, what's the point of me like doing all of this stuff? So passion is going to drive that that action. Because if you're like, yes, I have a goal, yes, I want to do this, yes, I want to help people, yes, I want to help entrepreneurs, then you're like, yes, I have a very big, I have big shoes to fill when I wake up in the morning. Like, I want to do this. Like, I want to help entrepreneurs or whatever, whatever it might be. Or I want to be a relationship coach and I want to help people with their relationships, So it's that passion. And I think also momentum. So if you start something and you have the passion and you're kind of, and maybe it's not going to be there right in the beginning, but if you kind of create that momentum, it just basically creates, a flywheel, as you call it, right? So it's kind of like, it almost like creates that motion and moving forward, and the whole thing just keeps moving forward, and then you have that momentum. So I would say those three things. So mindset shift, passion, and then that momentum flywheel that just allows you to move forward. So thinking about those things. And a lot of times with passion, people are like, well, I don't know what my passion is. Well, think about where you can serve, where you can help. Think about the goals that you have, And the one thing that I also see is that, like, a lot of times business owners or entrepreneurs want to go in it for the money. And the money is like just a side effect of the service, right?
Yep.
You have the passion, you provide the service, and people will pay you because you're good at what you do and you're providing a good service. But it's not the other way around. It's not like, I want to make money and then I'll think about the service a mediocre service I want to create, right? So think about the service, and then the money is just like a side effect of the service.
Yeah, that's so good. I love it. I think just really being aligned, right? When you're aligned, like, all these opportunities come to you. When you're aligned, people can feel that energy. They can feel that like magnetism. They can feel like you really enjoy what you're doing. And who do we want to work with? Someone who's just like getting by and like,
right.
Or do we want to work with someone who's lit up, having fun, enjoying themselves, and it feels
passionate.
Good. Exactly. It feels
someone
good.
Who's like, yes, like, I want to do it. I want to help. Like someone who has like drive,
Yes.
Excited.
I love it. I love it. And that's really, we don't have to always be like, oh my gosh, amped up, but like really to be tapped into that passion. Like I love it, Gene. Like you're so right to find those people who are doing it like and making us feel good because they're doing it, because they love it, because they enjoy it. There's so many options today. Why would we choose someone who's like a pain in the butt to work with and like doesn't look like they enjoy it? It's going to make us not like the experience. So like go find that person who's doing that and be that person yourself. And if you're not in the industry or the trade or whatever, and you're listening to this that you enjoy, then find that for you. Create that. Like go test things. I heard what you said earlier. I was like, you can't get it wrong if you're going out and experimenting with your passions. You can't like in my opinion, if you're trying to figure out what you love, you can't waste time trying to go figure it out. If you're like sincerely experimenting, you're sincerely like really paying attention to what lights you up and what doesn't. Like go just try different things, go attempt, go experiment, go play, and also give it some time too, right? Because you could go to one lesson of karate and be like, this sucks, I'm never coming back. But then if you keep going to it and keep experimenting, then you'll be able to develop like, hey, well, maybe I could learn to love this. And I think a lot of times we suck when we begin at anything. So giving ourselves that time, that patience,
Yeah, I mean, I sucked at digital marketing when I first started. So,
yep.
Yeah, I'll be honest, but 13 years down the line, it's like I'm okay at it now. But yeah, at the beginning, we'll always I sucked at being an entrepreneur too when I first started 7 years ago. I don't know. I think we're all kind of in that same boat, unless you have some sort of like experience being an entrepreneur. Maybe you're an entrepreneur, like, when you're a teenager or something, or you start a company, then I think we all suck as entrepreneurs as well, because there's a learning curve there as well.
Yeah, 100%. I wanted to ask you about your personal development, personal professional development. What do you feel is important to like really stay on your A game and cutting edge and like being the best version of yourself you can be?
It's a good point. So there's a few things that I do. One is meditation. So that's a big piece of my personal development. Yeah. It's helped me a lot, and I try to do it every day. I'll be honest, I don't do it I don't do it every day. So that's something that I do strive towards, is trying to just at least take 10 minutes every day to be with my thoughts, to be with myself, and to meditate. Definitely physical activity. So I've been running for, 20 years or something like that. Wow. So definitely doing some sort of physical activity. So today I went for a run outside since all the gyms are closed. Yeah. We also have to go. I want to
ask about that, Gene. Since you have such a track record with running, like I have wanted to like get more into marathon races and obstacle courses and things like that. One of my concerns is, and I know you're not necessarily a doctor or physical fitness expert, but one of my concerns is like the wear and tear that it has on joints and things like that. Have you experienced anything like that, or has it been like your body has stayed really healthy by running a certain way?
So yeah, that's a good point. It does, especially with age, it can tear your body a little bit more. So I started off running on road about, like I said, 20 years ago, and then about 10 years ago, I switched to running on trail. So that really has helped like my knees and joints in general, just because, especially when you're doing long distance running, like 10Ks or half marathons or marathons, and you're pounding on that concrete for many, many miles, that definitely can tear up your joints. And so, which is I think why a lot of like road marathoners don't really make it professionally past like 40, right? Because I think they're just body wear and tear over those like 20, 25 years that they've been doing it for so long. So, so trail has definitely helped me a lot. And I would highly recommend that. It's a little bit more challenging just because a lot of times when you do trail, it's more hilly. So, it's kind of a different challenge.
Oh yeah.
But I absolutely love it. It's much more scenic than doing road running. It's a little bit easier on the body. But I mean, the trail running you can do, in your 40s, 50s, 60s and up, if you continue on doing it. So it's a lot easier on the body.
That's awesome.
What are your thoughts? What are you looking to do? Are you looking to do races or?
Yeah, I think just challenging myself. I think that's something that's important, to keep challenging what I've done. I've never done a 5K, 10K, never done like anything like that, never done an obstacle course. And it's like, I want to challenge my body, but also do it in a way that preserves my body, push it, but don't be effective at how I push it and how I stretch it and how I challenge myself.
Absolutely. No, I think you should. I'd love to hear it. Next time you do a 5K, let me know how that goes.
Yes. I think
awesome.
the obstacle course is more like my style. I love like climbing on monkey bars and things like that when I was a kid. So it's like I just see myself doing more of that, just challenging myself. But I also know that like that takes a really higher level of commitment, like to develop the whole body.
Absolutely, I can totally understand that. Awesome. Yeah. Good luck with that. Let me know how that goes.
Thank you, Gene. Let's talk about the rest of this year, Gene. 2020. There's some interesting, beautiful, opportune-filled times that we're in. What do you see as a priority for you, for your company, going into the rest of this year?
Good question. Now with things being a little bit more uncertain, you never know how this year is going to end. I would say, my priority before this whole thing happened and before the coronavirus pandemic, my goals, or I guess what I wanted to accomplish this year, was to so I have a couple of businesses. So I have the digital marketing agency, like I mentioned, which has been going great. But then I have also created a couple of businesses recently, where I guess communities / businesses. So one is a community. It's called Digital Marketing for Women Entrepreneurs. So it's bringing together women entrepreneurs who are in that space or who are using digital marketing for their own businesses, digital marketing and social media. And that has been something that I've been wanting to do for a while. And so I partnered up with a female founder, another female entrepreneur. And so we put together a Facebook group and we have a podcast. And so my goal has been to really grow that and bring together a community of women entrepreneurs. And then I also started a technology company also around the same time a few months ago. And we were working on our pitch deck and wanting to get in front of investors, but it looks like that might be something that we have to put on hold just because VCs are not as open to giving away money as much at this particular point. So we're hoping that's something that we can still do down later in the year, but it looks like for now we're still working on our pitch deck, but it's something that we would have to probably put on hold in terms of raising capital for building out the technology platform. So those were the two main things that I wanted to accomplish from a business perspective, from a growth perspective, I guess from a business growth perspective. And then from a personal perspective, it's definitely been, so last year I did 5 half marathons on trail. And so my goal this year was to do at least that many and probably hopefully more. So 2 weeks ago, I did my first half marathon on trail this year, but I ended up spraining my ankle at mile 5, so I didn't finish it. So now my training has been kind of put on hold because of the sprained ankle. So I guess I'll just have to train a little bit, put that training, towards maybe a month or two from now. It's still my goal, and I still can accomplish those 5 half marathons, but it's just going to be a little bit tougher because of the sprained ankle. So, yeah, I'd say those. And then the other thing is my goal this year, from a personal perspective, is I just recently bought land up in the mountains of Colorado. So my goal was to build a house. Again, not sure how things are going to go with the whole economy, but that was still the goal, to get that finished for the end of the year. Wow.
Bold. That's bold and audacious, and I love it, Gene. Go for it. Keep going for those dreams. Where there's a will, there's a way. Especially if you for when you're really investing in a product and a service that you believe in, technology that you believe in, it doesn't matter what the economy's doing. People always, if you approach the right people, the right VCs, and pitch them, and they freaking love you, they'll say yes. I think it's there's people out there who have money that's liquid, right? And if you build a compelling enough case, you'll be able to persuade them. And I think that's the beauty of, like, it doesn't matter what time we're in. It's like, if it is to be, it's up to me. I don't care if the deck is stacked against me, the odds are stacked against me. I'm still going to go create the result. I wanted to talk to you about the half marathon. Why do you choose to do half marathon versus a full one, or different styles?
True, that's a good point. So I have done a full marathon at one point. That was many years ago, and then I decided I didn't want to do that anymore.
Is it too intense, or what is it?
It's just a lot more training and a lot more. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot more intense. So I mean, with a half marathon, you have to train for it, but it's like you don't have to do as much because you do the first half. It's like people are always like, yeah, why don't you do a full marathon? I'm like, the second half of the marathon is much harder than the first half. That's why I don't do a full marathon. It's like the first half is okay, like you can get through it even if you didn't train as much or as well. Like, it's doable to do 13 miles, but then 26 is exponentially harder than the 13. So that's why I've done it, and I think I'm good for now. But maybe down the line, it's something that I might consider doing again.
I love it. So good. So let's tell our audience how they can connect with you, and also that women's community. I know that's a big thing for you, something that's super important. So tell them how the women digital marketers can come and get involved, learn, grow, tune into the podcast. Tell them about that, Gene.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're a woman entrepreneur and you're either digital marketing or social media, or just use those channels for business and want to learn more, you can go to Facebook, and the Facebook group is just called Digital Marketing for Women Entrepreneurs, and we would love for you to join. So that would be great. We also have a podcast, which is under the same name, Digital Marketing for Women Entrepreneurs.
I love it.
Or you can also just look it up under my name, Gene Ginzburg. You'll probably find it. So it's on iTunes. So and then I also have my own podcast, which is just called Listen by Gene Ginzburg, and that's all about entrepreneurship, digital marketing, social media. I have guests on. We talk about entrepreneurship, digital marketing, and social media, I guess I would say. And so they're different formats. Sometimes I have people on, sometimes it's just me, sometimes it's just like a specific topic. So check that out as well. And then if you want to get in touch, just go to my website, geneginsburg.com. I just had it redone and redeveloped like a couple of weeks ago, maybe a week ago. Yeah. So it looks really nice. Looks much more professional than it used to before. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Congrats.
Yeah, completely redesigned. So awesome. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's great. Congrats, Gene. You're crushing it. You're in big momentum. I see these like projects that are coming to fruition. I love the branding and just like powerful descriptive words, digital marketing for women entrepreneurs. It's like, okay, I totally get who this is for, what we do here. And I think it's really important to have that clarity just right before someone's even opened the door, right? Like they're searching for this. So I think you're just powerfully positioning yourself, crushing it, and praying for the speedy healing of your ankle, getting back into training and doing more half marathons. And I will definitely keep you posted on my next tough mutter or whatever it might be. And
awesome.
I'm going to check out the trail run, because I think that's a good option for me. And then also anyone who's tuning in, definitely connect with Gene. Go to geneginsburg.com. That's JeanGinzburg.com. It'll be in the show notes. And Gene, thank you so much for being here, Superwoman.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Have a great rest of your day, okay?
Yeah, you too.